Well, here we go. Welcome everyone to my review series of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, otherwise known as the MCU. That's right, I'll be reviewing the first Iron Man all the way up to Spider-Man Far From Home. But wait, what is the MCU? Well, let's get into a bit of a background. In the early 2000s, Marvel was on the verge of going bankrupt since all of their stuff they were putting out, well, it kind of all sucked. This led to them selling Spider-Man to Sony and Wolverine, Deadpool, and the Fan Four stick to Fox. We got some alright Wolverine movies, some great Spider-Man movies, and whatever that was trying to be, but none of which were heavily involved with Marvel themselves. In their last attempt to make something profitable, they released Iron Man in 2008, a standalone superhero origin movie focused on one of Marvel's more recognizable comic book characters, Iron Man. And Marvel hoped this would be their key to maybe having their own cinematic universe featuring other Marvel superheroes. It's obvious today that they succeeded, but what did Iron Man do to save them? Well, judging from the title, you obviously know that I think Iron Man was indeed a miracle. However, for two reasons. Well, what are those reasons? Well, let's take a look at Iron Man. Since making a superhero movie that wasn't an origin story was a sin in the 2000s, unless you're the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Iron Man played it safe by being yet another origin story. However, the thing about Iron Man is that Tony doesn't become Iron Man until an hour into the movie. So what is the first half of the movie comprised of? Well, setup. Brilliant setup. The first half of the movie does what any good origin story does, and you get used to the characters and the world in which the characters reside in. Iron Man does a good job showing us what's going on instead of telling us. It doesn't tell us Tony is selfish and self-centered. We see him not show up to receive an award because he's too busy playing games, and when he gets said award, he gives it to some random dude because he couldn't care less. He's not evil, but we see that he's not exactly hero material. Without going too much into spoilers, we see Tony progressively work on the Iron Man suit, and honestly, seeing him building the suit is more fun than seeing him actually use it. The movie makes building a robot suit as realistic as possible, which leads to some cool science fiction and some hilarious comedy. And the whole arc of Tony in the movie was handled really well, but I'll get into that later. Overall, Iron Man is an engaging origin story with satisfying build-up throughout the movie leading up to the Iron Man we all know and love. You've probably guessed by now, but this movie has solid pacing. You're either learning something about the characters or seeing fun scenes involving the Iron Man suit. There's never a moment where the movie begins to drag, and it's amazing. Each scene is either important to the plot or extremely fun to watch. By the way, the tone of this movie is so refreshing compared to the other superhero movies released in the 2000s. I love the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy to death, and I think the X-Men movies were alright, but both of them were filled with comic book cheese. That's not a bad thing. In fact, that's exactly why I love the Spider-Man Sam Raimi trilogy so much. However, none of them felt grounded in reality. Iron Man, however, does. It makes sure it's a movie about a superhero instead of a superhero movie. You still have your origin story, over-the-top action scenes, and big bad villain, but the movie juggles all of that while still feeling like a movie everyone can enjoy that focuses on Tony Stark's journey. And a recurring thing in the MCU is that they use comic book tropes to segment to pretty comedic scenes that range from alright, that was funny, to downright genius. For some reason, it's hard for me to laugh at comedic scenes, and Iron Man had me laughing at several different scenes. This movie's tone is grounded for everyone while still having elements of comic book scenes for superhero fans. I guess it's a good idea to get into the characters now. Our lead, Tony Stark, steals the show completely. He's either extremely funny or extremely badass every time we see him on screen. And he has a redemption arc in the movie by going from a selfish, self-centered weapons manufacturer to a selfish, self-centered superhero who wants to do the right thing. That's right, he doesn't stop being the lovable jerk we're introduced to, and that's such a breath of fresh air. While Wolverine was a jerk in his movies, he wasn't necessarily supposed to be a role model hero. Iron Man, however, is more of what kids want to be, and it's refreshing that he didn't become a wise Disney princess at the end, but still remained a big jerk. He remained human, which makes his character feel so real. Pepper Potts was a nice, somewhat love interest. Rhodey had a few good scenes, and Obadiah was alright, but more on him later. Overall, the characters matches the movie's tone perfectly. They all feel like real people joined into a superhero movie instead of being a product of said superhero movie, which is great. What I'm about to say next is a big spoiler for the movie, so I recommend skipping to this timestamp to avoid spoilers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You have been warned. Obadiah was a cool villain, for the most part. You see, the movie does a good job at showcasing the father-son type relationship Obadiah and Tony have, but then it's revealed that Obadiah ordered for Tony to be assassinated and is now trying to steal his suit. This was a cool plot twist, and I was down for Obadiah to be the villain. However, then the climax happens, and Obadiah now has his hands on a perfect Iron Man suit. Then he ditches all of the motivations he had to make money by selling the suits and decides to have a decent robot fight with Tony. The sudden switch makes no sense, and Obadiah lost my interest once he became nothing more than just a big robot for Tony to take down. The movie wouldn't have nearly looked as well as it did if it wasn't for the amazing performances from everyone in the cast. Everyone does a good job in the acting department. However, we all know about the elephant in the room. Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark, and Tony Stark is Robert Downey Jr. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I am confident no one could have played Tony as well as Robert did. He's just so perfect for the role. As for the action, it's pretty good. There was a lot of work put into each action sequence, and all of them are exhilarating and a lot of fun to watch. As for the props and effects, they all look like they're really there. This movie was made 11 years ago, and it still holds up very well. If you want some fun action scenes and good effects, then you are certainly going to get them if you watch this movie. And the soundtrack. The freaking soundtrack. Each track in this movie perfectly fits the upbeat, awesome tone of the movie. The soundtrack was composed by Ramin, I cannot pronounce that last name, who also did work on Game of Thrones and Pacific Rim. He's obviously talented. Overall, this film's soundtrack is amazing. In conclusion, Iron Man is a miracle, mainly because this was the first superhero movie that felt grounded and recommendable for everyone. Without this movie, who knows what superhero movies would look like today? That's one of the reasons it's a miracle. The other is because it gave birth to an entire cinematic universe of movies that I can't wait to review. Iron Man was perfect and deserves an easy 5 out of 5. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, then please like and subscribe, and as always, I will see you guys next time. Peace, everyone.